Good morning to all. Good afternoon to many of you. Thank you for joining us today on Attorney Cultural Connect 2024, the first Hispanic Legal Marketing Summit sponsored and presented by ourselves, Abogados Now. So my name is Hugo Gomez. I'm the founder of Abogados Now, and I want to start off by first walking you through what to expect today. So there's a lot to cover today. We will be talking about web design, video marketing, video editing, Google Ads, intake, email marketing, text marketing, social media ads, and essentially putting you where consumers are on all the channels on the bottom right and beyond. Now, all of this is meant to drive value to your practice, to your office, namely to get you more signups, get you to open more files. And beyond that, we want to help you attribute your success to the marketing that we'll be presenting today. Now, this event, this 2-day summit, is really made for namely attorneys looking for a competitive edge. We know that generally speaking, there are very few resources out there in the market to get viable Hispanic marketing data, consumer behavior data. And we worked really hard over the last 6+ years to accumulate all this information for the summit that you're attending right now. So generally speaking, the English market is super saturated, the general market rather. So we're going to help you get that competitive edge by providing you the insights and strategies to tap into this underrepresented market. Now, you could also invite your marketing staff. Your marketing staff could be anyone that manages your social media, that runs your agency, that manages an agency on your campaigns, that manages your website. You know, anyone that interfaces with the consumer-facing aspect of your office. Feel free to share your link with them. Have them join us on this 2-day summit. And lastly, this is also for operational staff. We will be talking a lot about case acquisition, marketing in general, consumer-facing media. However, we'll also be talking about intake and email marketing and text follow-ups, and even what a client should experience when they go to your office if they're coming from Hispanic communities. Now, in this 2-day summit, we have a few promises. The first is that we're going to show you something new. We know that what we're presenting to you over the next 2 days is largely underrepresented. It's a lot of new information that merges technology, consumer behavior within the Hispanic market, and the needs of legal offices. We'll also be giving you actionable takeaways that you can implement today. This isn't a conference, namely to inspire you with platitudes. We don't think that that's going to move the needle. We want to give you insights and actionable takeaways that you can take on yourself or that you can give to your marketing staff. So we want you to implement this on your own. Lastly, we're not here to sell you anything. We're not going to be upselling you or cross-selling our services or telling you about why our organization is the best. That's just not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is drive tremendous amounts of volume by means of education in the Hispanic market within the legal community. Now, I just want to give a quick background on who we are. The folks that produce this event, they run across the Americas. We're a team of over 40 across North, Central, and South America. You'll be meeting some of the faces that you see on the screen throughout the next 2 days. And if you're not too familiar with us, we started in 2017 as a consultancy for attorneys only, and we were the first agency really that tapped into Hispanic legal marketing. There were a lot of lead generators out there, and they do phenomenal work, but that's just not what we do. We don't sell leads. What we do is we help attorneys develop their Hispanic marketing strategies online. And our focus is to target the 20% of the market that does make up the United States. Now, we've helped over 250 attorneys nationwide, from solo practitioners to some of the largest law firms in the country, with Hispanic strategies. And what that means is we have millions of rows of data points on ads behavior, on homepage conversion rates, landing page conversion rates, copywriting conversion rates, video conversion rates, anything that has to do with interfacing with the consumer. We've collected millions of data points over the years, which brings us to the summit for today and tomorrow. Now, today's agenda is dense. We've got a lot to cover. And the first thing that we're going to be covering is what I call the state of Hispanic legal marketing. We're going to take a macro look at not just the demographic shifts in the United States, but also the changes within the legal marketing landscape. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back with Carol Apestegui from Peru. She's our head of social media, and she, myself, plus Andrea Ferrer, our account manager, will be discussing social media video, the new standard. This is one of the hottest topics right now. It's something that I find that most legal professionals are mostly interested in. So we'll do a deep dive on what we believe is the new standard on social media. Andrea Ferrer will also be sticking around by giving us a walkthrough of email and text marketing strategies for attorneys. If you're not email and text marketing right now, you're behind. So we don't want you to be behind. So we're going to give you some quick accelerators, very low cost and cost-effective accelerators to get you in the market quicker. Ali Gonzalez, our head of ads, will be also walking us through Spanish Google ads in 2024. There's been a lot of changes in Google ads over the years, and we'll be addressing the real-time issues that are affecting the Google landscape in general. But namely, we'll be walking you through how to actually build a Spanish Google ad campaign from soup to nuts. And lastly, Andrea will be coming back to discuss client experience. This segment is called, "Is Your Office Set Up for More Hispanic Clients?" You know, we find that oftentimes the conversations we have with attorneys is such that it's rather focused on just case acquisition. But we find that the firms that do the best, that have the best referral networks from within their prior clients, are the ones that have the best office setup. So, you know, that could be office signage or contract documentation, or even the way you do your billing in Spanish. So we'll get more into the weeds on that final segment for today. Tomorrow, we have an equally loaded agenda. Ali will be coming back to talk us through Spanish social media ads in 2024. We generally see this as a completely different discipline than PPC or Google search ads. And we'll be walking you through all the changes that you should expect in 2024. Carol Apestegui and Cecilia at Be Social, one of our live event partners, will be walking us through live event marketing in Hispanic communities. This will help you bridge what you're doing on digital, rather online, to the offline world. This is really important. We see that the fastest growing firms, at least in our program, are the ones doing both online and offline marketing. Sunari Guerrero, our senior project manager in web development, will also be walking us through bilingual web design in 2024. There's some new best practices that we've seen really move the needle in conversions, generate more phone calls in attorney websites. We'll be walking you through all the changes, the critical changes and recommendations in web design, especially in staffing. Staffing is probably the biggest needle mover in web design. And lastly, Manny Sandoval comes from Lex Reception. If you're not familiar with Lex Reception, they are our official call answering service partner. They exclusively answer calls for attorneys looking for overflow intake. And Manny will be joining me on best practices in bilingual intake. So anything from scripting and the technology that you need in order to answer all of your live chats, your live phone calls, your emails, your texts. Manny will be covering that tomorrow. So we invite you to please take notes. This is a lot of information. There is a live Q&A button on your screen. So I encourage you to please feel free to ask whatever questions you'd like throughout the next 2 days. Also hop in and hop out. We know that this is 2 to 3 hours a day, more or less. So if you can't make it to all the events, feel free to ask for a replay. We'll give you some more information on that after the event has concluded. However, for all of our members joining us right now, if you're an active member of Abogados now, all the replays will be available to you via email and in your portal. So that being said, let's start with the state of Hispanic legal marketing in 2024. And we really can't talk about Hispanic legal marketing right now until we first discuss demographics. The reality is that most legal professionals that we speak to are already aware that the Hispanic market is growing. It's a dominant force, tremendous buying power. Most people know that the U.S. Hispanic population is approaching 20% of the market, rather of the population. And it's trending towards 30% by 2050. So most folks know that. They see it in their markets. They see it in their local areas. And this is a great thing. And so what we found most interesting in the census data is that the majority of the growth actually came from Hispanics. So of all the demographic changes in the last 10 years, according to the U.S. Census, compared to China, Philippines, Russia, everywhere outside of Latin America, 51% came from Hispanics. That's a tremendous amount of growth. What hasn't changed, and this is no surprise, is that the concentration of the population of U.S. Hispanics hasn't changed all that much. California, Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona, Florida, Jersey, New York remain strong leaders in U.S. Hispanic population concentration. Just by gross numbers, the highest in these states. But what was most fascinating in the 2020 U.S. Census is that the areas that had the fastest growth were states that are not normally associated to having high volumes of Hispanic populations. So if you take a look at the darker states here, we're looking at Louisiana, Tennessee, West Virginia, Maryland, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, Kentucky, the Dakotas, even Montana, had the fastest growth in Hispanic populations compared to the rest of the United States. So what that to me illustrates is that the country is changing across the board, across all coasts, across the Midwest, across the central part of the United States. It's nationwide that this change is happening. So I want you to bookmark these data points because I want to reconcile that with what most attorneys or legal professionals see as the legal marketing experience. When we talk to attorneys, generally speaking, you guys have a goal in mind. There's maybe there's a revenue goal in mind for the next quarter or the next month or the next year, or maybe it's like the amount of clients you're looking to increase, or maybe it's just more of a holistic goal about being more present in the marketplace. Generally speaking, when we talk to attorneys who have these goals, they're oftentimes met with marketing professionals who have really good intentions and who do decent work and generally have this formula set up for them. A marketing professional will oftentimes say, hey, attorney, you need a website. They'll either audit it or they'll rebuild a new one. And if the agency can convince the attorney that they need to market themselves in Spanish, they might throw up Google Translate, which if you follow us for over the last few years, you know that Google Translate is just not the most effective way to authentically communicate to Hispanic markets. Then the agency will oftentimes say, you need to write a blog a week or a blog every other week or one blog a month. And generally speaking, these blogs are really just to signal to Google that you're a law firm. Most consumers, even anecdotally, probably not that interested in the 5 things to do after a car accident. The agency will probably tell you to record some video in your office about statute of limitations that, to be honest, it's not that interesting. And they'll make you do some self-promotional posts on social media that get very little interest. And the agency will more often than not say, hey, you got to run some Google ads and spend a lot of money doing it. Generally speaking, this used to work, ages ago, but it just doesn't work anymore. It just generally yields minimal results. And when I talk to attorneys, when our sales team talks to attorneys especially, we find that it's not that the website that they have doesn't work, or that their videos aren't compelling, or that their social media isn't that interesting. We find that it's a saturated market. The general market, or what we call the English market, is super saturated. It's so easy for anyone to call Google, to call a representative at Facebook/Meta and say, help me run some ads. I have $500. How do we do this? And in a matter of hours, you can go from no visibility to being in front of tens of thousands of eyeballs virtually overnight. So it's super saturated. And what happens when there's saturation is that demand for ads goes up. Thus, the cost to run ads substantially goes up. And if your ad costs go high, then you have skinnier margins, and then you can't grow. This is what most attorneys are facing right now. They're facing hyper limited growth because the things that they used to do a few years ago just don't work the same as they do today. So you're probably part of a practice or a firm that's very digital forward, which is why you're on this webinar right now. You understand the value of virtual communications. And you want a competitive edge, but you know you don't have those billboard war chests. Those billboard attorneys have, $500,000 to $2.5 million a month at minimum that they're spending. You know you can't compete against them. Meanwhile, going back to the beginning of this module, you know that there's an exponentially fast-growing U.S. Hispanic market. So how do we reconcile the two, especially in a crowded English market? We think that moving forward, the focus should be on mobile, video, and social. And this isn't on a hunch or speculation. This is from our internal data and from some of the leading researchers in this space. So let's start with the Pew Research Center. The Pew Research Center recently revealed that 94% of Hispanic adults are mobile first. That's more than the general market at 85%. So being mobile first is of the utmost importance, especially in the Hispanic market. It's not to say that the Hispanic market doesn't use desktop machines or laptops. There's just enough data points to say that Hispanic adults, especially those recently coming into the country, are probably not working white-collar jobs, but they certainly come into the country with the mobile phone. So it's democratized access to the internet and essentially to legal access. So mobile is of the utmost importance. Every study has shown this, especially that of the Pew Research Center. Nielsen has an amazing study on streaming behaviors. Nielsen has shown that Hispanic adults watch streaming content 13% higher than the general market. Streaming content could be, Pandora, Netflix, Hulu, VIX, which is part of the Univision streaming network, YouTube, tremendous amount of Hispanic volume on YouTube. So video streaming, rather on-demand video, is really critical to this market. And lastly, Statista has shown that 60% of Hispanics say that social media influences their purchasing decisions. So if you are presumably the only firm in your local market advertising to Hispanics with Spanish media, you're more than likely to be chosen than that of any other attorney just running general market ads that a Spanish speaker may or may not see. So when we look ahead, even in our own internal service lines, we used to have, similar recommendations for websites and SEO and running paid ads out of the gates. And now we've fundamentally changed our approach over the last year because we know that it's different. It's a different landscape. We used to see changes, in 12 to 18 month sprints. Now we see changes that are fundamental to your marketing infrastructure every 6 to 12 months. And so right now, what we can say with high degree of confidence is that if you want the competitive edge this year, presumably for the next couple years. We believe that it's not just mobile, but it's social media video for Hispanic markets. So we'll be covering that in this 2-day summit. We'll be talking a lot about mobile strategy on your website, your social media, the ads that you run. We'll be talking about video production and why you don't need a high-value production crew to run effective video for these markets. And everything before, during, and post case acquisition to gain more market share in this really untapped market. So we're going to take a quick break. And in 5 minutes, we'll be returning with Carol Lapastegui on social media video as a new standard. So thank you for joining us again.